Welcome to Hatching Creativity. This isn't just another behavioral health podcast. This is the place where thought leaders converge to talk about real-life challenges, breakthroughs, and pivotal aha moments.
So I have a question for you to support that. Why do you think the stereotype when someone says, "Oh my God, Joe, you're like a used car salesman," where do you think that sort of negative cliche against used car salesmen comes from? Never telling them the price. Remember the day they never tell you the price.
No transparency.
Right, no transparency. How much does this car cost? Oh, don't worry about that. Come on in, just take the test drive. Like that's where it came from. And you always felt they were being shady. And nobody, right? It's either insurance salesman or car salesman. That's the usual.
So it depends, right? Because I've been in sales my whole life, right? I guess we'll kind of take a tangent on sales. I'll have people say to me from time to time, in the very beginning of a demo, they'll go, "What's the price?" And you go, "Look, let me show you what this can do for your organization. Let me show you the value." Because really, sometimes the price is completely irrelevant when you see the value, right? And I've had conversations with people who will just interrupt you the whole time. They don't care anything about your product, what it can do for them. All they care about is what the cost to them is. And I've had conversations with people like that. And I usually do wait to the end to discuss price. And my answer at times will have to be, "Hey, look, if this doesn't work for you, if this isn't valuable for you, it costs you nothing."
When you're come to me and you try to sell me compliance, say, my brain is trying to find a bucket in my buckets of experience that's in my head because I don't understand what you're saying. But if I can put you in a bucket that I understand, then I can associate, oh, now I know what Mike's talking about. Well,
right.
People like you just described, they come into the meeting. You're already in a certain bucket. And that sounded like the bucket is compliance is a cost for me.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing it is an expenditure. I don't give a crap about it any other way other than that, because my past experiences with dealing with compliance issues is it's never really becomes an issue and I just have to pay money for it. So to me, as you were describing that, I'm a big believer in human behavior and their belief systems. That guy's belief system was, this is just about me saying I'm in compliance and how much did it cost me? And I happen to know your business, and clearly it's a lot more than that. As compared to the acute care world, there's, when it comes to business systems, automation, how technology is valued for what it can do for you. I find there's a lack of sophistication that's permeated through the industry. And I'm not saying that to pick on anybody, but a lot of these operators, let's be honest, people that went through treatment themselves are in recovery, and they have the great luxury of being able to be in a business that they can provide for their families and help the people that were just like that. I actually think that's a cool.
Absolutely. Cool. The heart's in the right place. The heart is in the right place.
But they didn't come from business backgrounds. They didn't come from technology backgrounds. So when someone shows up and says, "Oh, this compliance tool is this much," or this patient financial management tool is that much, getting claims and revenue cycle systems in place and clinical programs and continuums of care organized and streamlined and scalable, that has to be the first priority. I get it. But once you have those things nailed down and now you're trying to button up your business and tighten things up, I don't know, easy motivator. 20% of your revenue comes from a source. You better know how much they owe a year. How much of it are you getting paid today? What do you think you should be getting paid? Is the process I have in place friendly to my alumni for referrals and readmissions, or is it a barrier? Am I compliant? How much money am I bleeding because I'm just not being smart?
They say stepping over a dollar to pick up a dime, right? We see it on our side. A very common conversation that I have with CEOs is, we talk about reducing administrative burden on your staff, right? And they go, "What do you mean? I'm paying them 40 hours a week. Why would I not have them do compliance on paper? I'm already paying them. It just gives them something to do with their time." And I go, "Well, you're paying them to take care of your clients, not paying them to check the lights," right? It's it just doesn't make sense. But it does. It's our responsibility as the experts to be able to give good education to the people that are coming into this with this perspective.
You and I also have a similar problem. So why would somebody have a process in place, you purposely create a barrier to the patient that the CPA is zero, conversion rates are really high and are more profitable? Why would you do that? It's because they can't see that lost admission. It's not like the phone rang and someone said, "Hey, I was going to come back to you, but I'm not coming because you guys sent me a bill for $4,000. No one ever told me I owed that, and I'm going to go to Joe's Recovery. I just called you to tell you you're not getting my business." Like, that's never happened. Similar.
Well, the other thing too is it comes back to, we do it this way because we've always done it this way, and we're so busy that we don't have a chance to look at our operations and see where things are not.
But it's common. To be fair to that population, though, I do get the basics. If you can't see a problem, how are you supposed to know that it needs to be attended to? Like in your space, and I'm going to ask this question because I don't know the answer, but I'm thinking it's a pretty high number. Compliance is an interesting animal in that, and it applies to the compliance I was describing earlier that we manage. But it's the same thing. I only find out it's a problem when it's too late.
Mm-hmm.
You could sit on the mountaintop. The British are coming. The British are coming, right? Like, and everyone's walking around going, "I don't see any British. What are you talking about?" And by the time I see the British, it's too late.
Oh, I got stories around that.
Right? So the question is, how do you, because I have a challenge like this for inducement compliance and for consumer protection. Human nature is such that, especially if you're an entrepreneur and you're building a business and you're CEO and your plate's full with a bunch of needle moving initiatives, how do you slow down and go, "Oh, Mike's here. Yeah, I don't have a payer audit right now. I don't have any regulators at my desk or whatever, but I really need to listen to him." Right? The reality is the consequences of not putting these things in place is literally catastrophic. I call it extinction level event, right? Like, my stuff isn't that catastrophic. Yeah, to a certain extent.
Could be.
One payer. The jail. Sorry, yes. The jail part, yes. The consumer protection stuff has statutory fines. They're like $5,000 per instance. So yeah, you have a lot of admissions times $5,000. That's a lot of money. But your stuff is like, yeah, lights are out. See you later.
I got a real interesting story for you to your point, right? Oftentimes people aren't interested in compliance until the shit hits the fan and they call us when there's a very big problem. There was a time we had an organization that didn't feel that electronic management of compliance documentation was necessary. They felt it wasn't important until the DEA showed up at their office. Turns out a disgruntled employee stole a med log book from a nurse's office. It was on a book, easy to do. Stole the med log book, called the Joint Commission and said that this nurse was diverting meds controls. Joint Commission doesn't show up, DEA shows up. They call Renee. Holy shit, Renee, we need you. Not a lot of compliance consultants do stuff like this.
What the hell could you even do after the fact like that?
Renee marched right in there, fired the nurse on the spot, and she took care of it. Renee's the one that people call when something shit totally hits the fan. This was one. We've seen client round books get destroyed in a flood. Couple weeks later, they haven't started doing their client round books on new binders yet, and they have a sentinel event. They can't prove that they've been doing client rounds because it's on paper.
Yeah.
Now, what do you do when there's a big audit? These are the kinds of things that happen when you think that you don't need to address it because you've never needed to address it.
Well, hold on. I got to ask this question. It's 2023. Are you legit telling me there are still people doing this stuff on paper.
70%, 60% of
treatment get the hell out of here.
Still using paper.
Get out of here.
Now, perfect example. I talk to providers all the time.
What do you charge $1 billion? Well, who wouldn't put? That's absurd.
Here's another example. You have an outpatient clinic. You have to bring one of your clients to the emergency room. You've got your policies and binders. How do you expect your techs or your operations people who don't have access to your binders to know what your procedure is to take somebody to the hospital? You can't. So you wing it, and you don't contact the correct people.
By the way, winging it's not good.
Well, it's good if you want to, start a dumpster fire.
I'm kidding.
It really, like, these are things that happen so often, and you pull in, you take a good consultant, like, one that we work closely with, Rule 62, or Circa Behavioral Health, or a reputable consultant who deals with compliance, and they will have these stories that I have. They'll have dozens. You pull Renee and she'll have dozens. People don't pay attention to it until it's a problem.
I found that one of the challenges is, I look at this market, I break it up into 3 categories. The good actors that really want to do the right thing, and as they scale and grow and they can afford to do the right things, they tend to do it. On the far other extreme, they're the bad actors who don't give a shit about the patient. They look at heads and beds. It's like a puppy mill, for lack of a better metaphor. And they're just trying to churn and burn the reimbursements. And then there's the middle group that is a combination of people that some that just don't know any better, like genuinely, authentically, they don't know any better. Until someone like you comes in and tells them, or in my part of the business, I come in and tell them. But I had this theory. So there's a saying in AA where they say, when you relapse, there's nothing worse than a head full of AA and a belly full of booze. That's also true in business in this. When you didn't know any better, there's ignorance is bliss, right? Like but then if someone like you walks in talking about overall compliance, and we come in talking about what we talk about, and now you have this knowledge, but you're in this middle group where you don't have the money to do all these things that you need to do, right? There's a lot of anxiety and anguish there, right? Like they're good actors, but they don't. I've got 100 hatches, 100 FinPays. I've got 100 whatever these other systems are out there. All of them are crucial to my business. Where do I prioritize, and how do I don't know what Mike knows, so how do I know if now's the time? That's why we have
we've got a website. We've got a website. We call it Dear Compliance Officer. It's dedicated to free information for people who have concerns. hatchcompliance.com/DCO. You want to know what to do in a situation like this? You don't necessarily need Hatch, but you do need access to somebody who's going to be able to give you good information. Because maybe you can't afford Hatch, but you want to do the right thing. People like you and me, we're going to be able to help people who don't have the money for that, but still want to do the right thing. That's what the podcast is all about. Thanks for tuning in to Hatching Creativity. We appreciate your support. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and tell all your friends about the show. And remember, it's never just about one thing.